All right, Bernie, as we look back as the 24-25 season, a lot of different storylines. You had a coaching change, different players getting called up, a lot of young guys, some vets leading the way, and then you guys, I think, play your best hockey in the last month of the season. What are you going to take away the most from this really great year?
Well, it has been a good year, and I think the one thing we've learned is we're turning into a development, spot for coaches as well. I think it's the third time in the last 7 years that we've had to make a mid-season coaching change because our coach has, been recalled to Chicago, and that's fantastic for them. And I thought that Mark Eaton came in, and the transition was seamless. I felt like Rob Klinkhammer, Josh McNiven, Johnny Lehman, and Matt Smith really all stepped up to help Mark and did a fantastic job throughout the season, making sure we didn't lose a step. But this was a really busy season. We had a lot of transactions, a lot of players going up and down, and a lot of players coming in from Indianapolis being asked to, kind of step up and play big roles for us and help get us to that playoff position. And, overall, you always want to go farther, but I think from a development year, it was a great season.
When you think back, we were chatting with Kevin yesterday, and he said pretty bluntly, it was so much fun to see so many of my friends and teammates kind of go live their dreams and make NHL debuts. And there were a good 5, 6, 7 guys that had that happen. How special is it for you to know that you're playing such a big part in those guys, moving on up and getting time with the Hawks?
Well, I've always said, or I've been lucky enough, I've been doing this now for, be going into my 20th year next year, and that's my favorite part of the job is being able to make those phone calls and tell players that they're being recalled to Chicago, especially when it's the first time. And this year we had a lot of those, and like Frankie and Slags, like they went up there and played fantastic, and Artie went up and played well, and Korch went up, and Deli went up, and Louis went up, and Drew Comesso got his first game, and I'm probably missing people, but it's fantastic to see these guys move up and play so well. And we've always worked on the premise here that we have to have these players ready not to just go up and fill a roster spot, but go up and actually contribute. And that's what we've done for a long time here, and we're very lucky that it was Rocky, but obviously Danny now and Kyle give us the resources here to be able to do our job at a high level so that these players can go to Chicago and contribute.
I want to ask you about a few players, and you mentioned Drew in particular. From the time that he came back from injury, that game in Tucson, March the 1st, he had the best numbers in the American Hockey League amongst goaltenders. As a former goaltender yourself, what can you say about the run and confidence that clearly he's built to hopefully go in and have a great summer and do some great work next season too?
Well, I felt that Drew made great strides. His first year was a good year, and then, he came in this year and got off to a pretty good start, and then he was having some ankle issues, and we basically shut him down for 2 weeks because we didn't want this to be something that was going to linger on throughout the season. And I felt that Drew came out of that injury flying, and it wasn't only coming out of the injury, it was also the first game back was the day that we traded for Spencer Knight. So you're never sure how a young goalie is going to react to that mentally, like, wow, is that going to push me back now, or how does that affect me? And he didn't let any of that bother him. He actually, I think, got mentally stronger and performed at such a high level the rest of the season that enabled us to make the playoffs and make a good push in the playoffs.
A quick word on what I've called the kind of trio of rookies that you saw a lot in your bottom six: Hayes, Savoie, and Lwinsky. 3 guys that I think generally just got more confident as the season went on. What do you see from each of those guys, and what excites you about what they can bring to not only the IceHogs but the Blackhawks here going forward?
Well, 3 great individuals first and foremost. Like our scouting staff, led by Mike Donahue, has done a fantastic job drafting high character kids with great work ethic and desire, and it's a pleasure just having them here first and foremost. Sammy, I'll start with him. Coming off a horrific injury last year, coming in and playing all 72 games, and every playoff game was just remarkable, and he played at a high level. I felt that around the All-Star break, he had a little bit of a dip for about a week or 2 where it was more fatigue. He wasn't playing poorly, but I just felt the energy level wasn't there. He had a good rest during the All-Star break and came back, as strong as ever, and really is an exciting player for Blackhawk fans to keep an eye on moving forward, because He plays the game at a high level. His ability to transport the puck through the neutral zone and gain entries into the offensive zone is tremendous. He's very good on the penalty kill. There's a lot to like there as an individual. Gavin Hayes, scored at a high rate in junior hockey, and came in early in the year, and I talked about it with him in his exit meeting. I never seen a player hit so many posts and crossbars, to start a season, and I was just waiting for one or two of those to go in so he could just kind of jump off of that and get going. But he also, had a bad injury, missed some time. I thought he came back out of that very strong, finished the season really well, and scored a few goals for us where you could just see that goal-scoring mentality where he came down the wing, went short side, bar down, and, when you see that, you can just see that you can't teach that. You either can do that or you can't do that. And that's going to translate, I think, next year, big time for him. He has good size, like a lot of these young players. They got to continue to get stronger. That's part of becoming a pro hockey player. But he's another player that made very good strides this year.
As we look ahead a little bit throughout this summer, and I don't want to get you to reveal anything in particular, but what are some of the things or areas that you'll focus on as you start to construct this team? There's already guys that are probably going to be in the fold already coming into next season, but what are some of the areas top of mind that you want to look for when you construct this next team?
Well, before I step into that, I failed to mention about Paul Lwinsky. I thought Paul was a player that, has tremendous speed, has good size, has to continue to get stronger and get his man weight, as we like to say, but didn't shy away. And I thought that he got better, continuously as the season went along. And I really got to credit Will Moran did a lot of work, video work, on the ice work with him, and did a tremendous job assisting Paul throughout the year. And I thought he finished really strong, really carved out a nice niche on the fourth line as a checking line and creating more offensive chances than were against them. So they became dangerous. Looking forward into next year, it's always a jigsaw puzzle because we have to handle, obviously, what is going to happen in Chicago. They might sign free agents. They might have players that are here currently that make the team there for next year. Training camp solves all of that. So I've got to sit down with Kyle before July 1st and kind of get a feel for what we need here and what we're able to sign going forward. We have a lot of great players here that finish strong, great veterans that, in a perfect world, you'd love to have them all back. We don't live in a perfect world, especially in sports. But players like Kevin Fitzgerald and Brett Sini and Sanford and Jerry Mayhew, they all contributed so well for us this year. I don't mention Joey Anderson in that just because he has another year remaining on his contract, but these players, all were great for our younger players as well. As much as they did on the ice for our team, they did just as much off the ice in helping these young players develop into good professionals. So I'll have to sit with Kyle, see what openings we have on our roster, and then we'll have to make some hard decisions on that going forward.
Lastly, one last look towards next year. There's a lot of exciting stuff, even aside from the hockey. There's the centennial season with the Blackhawks. Rockford will host the AHL All-Star Classic in February. How much excitement is buzzing around this organization? And it really just feels like things are going in the right direction at an exponential level here.
Well, I've said it all year, and Kyle said it last year. It's an exciting time to be a Blackhawks fan. When you see the way our team ended in Chicago the last month, 6 weeks, with so much youth in the lineup. I think there was 13 players under 23 or 23 or younger, and how well they played and how they were kind of taking over the core of that team and what direction we're going to go, and they played extremely well. And I think if you're a Blackhawk fan, that's very encouraging. I know as a part of their management, it is very encouraging. And the players that were assigned back to us that had played a key role in those moments. So I think there's a lot to like, both in Rockford and in Chicago moving forward. The centennial season, it's very exciting. It's amazing to be part of an organization with 100 years, in the NHL, an Original Six team. They've always treated all of us so well, right from the time I've joined the organization right up to today. They always treat us like family. They don't treat us like employees. They treat us like family, and that goes a long way, and that's why you see a lot of retention, in the organization. People don't want to leave. And having the All-Star game here, I think it's going to be not only big for the city of Rockford, it's big for the state of Illinois and for the Midwest. It hasn't been in the Midwest since 2004. And, I'm ready for hockey season, to start again. This is always a somber part of the year, saying goodbye to players and you're not going to see guys on an everyday basis, and you miss them. We use the word family, and it's really true. You travel with us on a daily basis. We go out for dinners. We're on the buses. We're at games and hotels together, and it really is a tight group and a tight environment. And I'm really proud. I know we fell short against Milwaukee, but they won the division for a reason. They're a very good hockey team, but I'm very proud of our team to beat out to beat out Chicago, and then take Milwaukee to 5 games in overtime. 3 one-goal games, 2 of them going to overtime. We each kind of blew each other out in one game, and we had just as much opportunity to win that last game as they did, and just got a bad bounce in overtime, and that changed it. But I'm so proud of our group and what they were able to achieve throughout the year. And right from day one here, we've walked the line of developing and winning. And it's very hard to do both, and I like to think that we do a good job. This was 6 out of 7 years that we've played playoff hockey, and those 7 games this year are going to have a huge impact on the development of our young prospects going forward. And first of all, I can't thank our fans enough. Our fans are always behind us. They've been fantastic right from day one since I've gotten here. And I want to thank, our staff. The people that don't get thanked enough or recognized enough is our support staff, like John Walter and Patrick Chun on the athletic side, Tyler Carpenter and Jake Flincham on the equipment side, Paul Sawyer doing our strength and development coaching, Harrison Myatt doing our masseuse work. And, those guys put in such long hours on a daily basis. They get home from the rink at 3 in the morning and they're back here at 7. And our coaching staff who put in long hours, like their day doesn't end after practice. They're here, another 4 or 5 hours doing video, preparing for the next day. And they all stepped up, like I said earlier, and helped Mark Eaton out, who came in and did a fantastic job for us. And, another person that doesn't, get spoken enough about is Sam Levins, our performance coach. She works with the players and talks to them and helps them when they're going through tough times. And she's done a great job working with all of our players. And, we have a big staff. It takes a lot to try and help these young players recognize their dream. And I'm very proud of our staff. I'm proud of our whole entire organization right now. And I think there's going to be great, bright days ahead for the entire Chicago Blackhawks organization.
Here's to that. Thanks for the time as always, Bernie.
Thank you. Thank you for everything this year.